Hi there and welcome to Real Life in Real Estate, where I am here to help you live your best life and achieve ultimate success. Now, you notice I'm solo today, which we're kind of going back and forth. We've had some amazing guests on this season, which we have some really, really good ones coming up, and I'm very excited for that. I get very excited. I think I've said that before, right? I'm just an excitable person, but some of the guests we have coming are people who are impacting agents nationally across the country who have had phenomenal careers, and I know that every time I have a guest on, you're going to learn something. In fact, let me just say this. One of the things that is my heart here, and one of the things that I want to see happen, is that every time I have a guest on, I realize you're not going to take 100% of what they say and implement it in your business. However, I believe that everyone that comes on this show, and every time you listen or you watch, what I'm having to say, you can take a nugget out of it that you can apply to today, or you can take something out that you can apply to your business. You might hear something here on Real Life in Real Estate that has genuine, deep impact on your life or on your real estate. And that's really our hope in all of this. So today I've got a great topic for you. Before I get into that, though, let me remind you, go ahead and like and subscribe on YouTube. We're growing the YouTube channel, and we've started to see a little bit of growth there, but we need your help with that. So make sure that you're subscribing. It'll pop in every week. Hit that little bell there for us. That just helps us in the algorithms. And then wherever you get your podcasts, please follow us where you're getting your podcasts. So like I listen to Apple Podcasts, and I go in and you can actually follow right there, and it'll pop in for you every week. So reminder, Mondays, we have Monday Mindsets pop in. And then on Fridays, every Friday, you're going to get the Real Life in Real Estate podcast. All of them show up under Real Life in Real Estate. So why am I holding paper today? Because most days I'm not holding paper. I use my iPad. This is my handy dandy trusty iPad, or maybe I have my computer up. But today I'm holding a letter that I received in my office in the mail from homes.com. Now, everyone knows there are a lot of portals out there where our clients are going and searching for real estate. And, well, let me just say, I encourage you, set up your clients on a portal through your MLS system. Every MLS has that automatic search feature. Get your clients set up on that so they're receiving new listings as soon as they hit the market from you. It's direct data, okay? Be sure that you are sending listings to your client that are automatically hitting once they, hit the market. I always tell my clients, this is the most accurate information. Most accurate because as soon as an agent goes into the MLS, they populate all of the data for the listing, they click go on that listing, and it'll hit your inbox right away. However, if you wait for it to hit realtor.com or Zillow or, homes.com, a syndication could take 24 hours for some of those sites. It's the weirdest thing. Recently, I had 2 listings in a row that I listed where 24 hours after we went on the market, it had still not hit realtor.com. Why realtor.com? I have no idea. But when it comes to the IDX feed, we don't have any control over that. It's just how they're pulling the listings in. So I always want to encourage you up front, put them in a portal in your MLS system. I don't even do it in our CRM. We have a company CRM, and there's a lot of them out there. 2 of the biggest ones would be like your Boomtown or Bold Trail or Lofty, those type of CRMs. The problem is those listings have to syndicate to those as well. So if you want your buyers to see it right away, just use what you have through the MLS. Now, that's not to say that you don't use the other search portals, and your buyers are going to be using the search portals. So just make sure that you educate them. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but let's talk about the portal wars. That's what we're getting into today, is the portal wars. And specifically, I want to talk about some things that Zillow's doing and Homes.com. There's been a lot of fight back and forth between those two. So just to kind of go through the portals that are out there, we have the 5 bigs, okay? So you've got Zillow, number 1 by far and away, over 250 million unique visitors a month. Realtor.com is around 240,000 unique visitors. You've got Homes.com. They've moved into the number 3 spot. They've actually grown rapidly. In fact, they have spent an absolute fortune, like, $100 million or something on advertising to grow their portal over the past year. I mean, you've seen Super Bowl commercials, and, I'm seeing Homes.com ads everywhere. So they are growing. They're the number 3 now. And then you have Trulia and Redfin that are kind of floating there at the bottom, much smaller. I am interested to see what happens with Redfin because I believe recently Redfin was bought out by Rocket Mortgage. And so I think we're going to see some growth in Redfin because they are going to have real power behind them. And it'll be interesting to see what Rocket Mortgage is going to do with that because it's, giving them more control over the home buyers. Obviously, they want to grow their mortgage business, being one of the largest mortgage companies in the United States. But then in addition, they're going to have this whole real estate segment. So are they going to be referring things out? Or are they going to stay as a brokerage? I don't know. I'm interested to see how all of that works out with Redfin. But specifically, I received this letter here from Homes.com, and I want to talk about it. This is a full 2-page letter that they sent out, and it's a specific rebuke of Zillow. It's directed at agents. Hopefully you received this. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But it's dealing with Zillow's new policies around clear cooperation. Now, for those of you that don't remember what happened with clear cooperation, recently the NAR, basically the whole thing was kind of struck down the way that it had been. And we were given a little bit more leniency when it came to having off-market listings, especially if a seller did not wish to have their home listed on the MLS right away. You didn't have to do that. I'm not going to get into all of the details of clear cooperation, but Zillow came out at that time or in the last couple of months here and basically said if you are an agent and you list a home on or without putting it on the MLS, and that home is not on the MLS within 24 hours, that they are not then going to syndicate it to Zillow when you do actually put it onto the MLS. So Homes.com comes out now, and they are sending this letter to basically go through all of the issues with Zillow's new policy, which I do find to be interesting. So before I get into the actual letter, let me talk a little bit about Zillow, because there's been this love-hate relationship with Zillow through my entire career. I started in the business in 2006. So, as of today's date, I've been in the business pretty much 19 years. And Zillow, right after I got into the business, is when we started hearing of these Zillow Zestimates. Okay, so it was the first time we would go out on a listing appointment, we would present our CMA, and then sellers would say, well, Zillow says my house is worth X, and you're saying it's worth Y. I think it should be worth more. And so we had to learn at that time that Zillow's estimates were not always accurate. Even today, Zillow's estimates are not so accurate. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But bottom line is I can show you what it says your house is worth on the 5 different portals, and guess what? Every single one is going to be different. There's no exact science to determining what the value of a home is, not even through your, quote, scientific algorithms, right? The other thing that has been a hate thing with Zillow is that they're selling client data. So they get your clients on there, get them registered on there, and everything they do is to hide who the listing agent is. They make it very difficult to find who the listing agent is on there. They want to get you to schedule a showing. In other words, hit the button. And when you hit the button, they are selling your data, or they're selling your client's data. And so that's always bugged me. That's been one of my hates. Years ago, I had one of my managers sit down with me. This has probably been, 8 to 10 years ago. He sat down with me. He said he heard from the then CEO's mouth of Zillow, Rich Barton, that it was their desire that they would make 40% of every single real estate commission. That was their goal. And back then I was like, really? You think they're going to be able to do that? Well, then in the past several years here, they launched their whole iBuyer program where they were going in, they were buying up homes. And because they were doing that, they started a brokerage. So Zillow is a brokerage in many markets. And then they started doing things that were incredibly unethical, like buying over market value in neighborhoods to push the price up so that the other houses in the neighborhood that they had bought would sell at those inflated prices. And ultimately, that whole thing crashed down. But in that, they were taking away the agents that were buying leads from them at that time. They were actually pulling those away from them and starting different programs where they were getting more of the real estate commission. I actually know some agents. They bought tons of Zillow leads. They built their businesses on Zillow leads. And when Zillow pulled that rug out from underneath them, they lost a ton of money and a ton of business. So with that said, I may have kind of hit two different points there as I talked about that. But the whole iBuyer program about 2 years ago went under. And Zillow pulled that program and laid off 25% of their, company because they were losing so much money. They made a big mistake. And then what happened is they came crawling back to the agents that they were basically screwing over. There's no better way to say that. And said, oh, buy leads from us again. We're on your side. And in all reality, they're really not, okay? The other thing that has bugged the industry for a very long time is Zillow buying up great technology. So the first big one that happened was dotloop. They bought dotloop and people freaked out over it. Now, I'm going to be honest. My company, we use dotloop. My market, for the most part, uses dotloop. Across the country, I know so many people that use dotloop. And with that being said, I think it's a great platform. It's actually out of Cincinnati, Ohio, which that's one of the markets that I serve. And I had a friend who was an executive at dotloop. And I went in one day, I met with him there. I saw kind of the inner workings of the company. It was an awesome company. And then Zillow bought it. And guess what? It's still, in my opinion, one of the better technologies for us as agents out there. So they start buying up tech companies. They also bought Follow Up Boss, which was the industry's best CRM system. It was an excellent system, still is an excellent system. They bought Showing Time. That one really made a lot of people in the industry mad. In fact, at the time that that came out, the other big tech company in the industry, which is one of the big brokerages out there that started calling themselves a technology company, well, they flipped out over the whole purchase of Showing Time. Some of their leadership made a lot of comments about it. And when that happened, I said, okay, so what? And who cares? Well, the who cares is other technology companies care, right? But so what? Life goes on. I use Showing Time in my market. I know Showing Time is still the number one platform for showing management across the country. Here's the bottom line, is they're buying these up. They are, maintaining the contracts that were already in place. Apparently, data is protected as they're buying up all of these contracts. But there are some things out there that make me a little bit nervous about Zillow, and some of that is highlighted in this letter from Homes.com. Let me tell you why Advantage Home Warranty has resolved so much stress in my marriage What? A home warranty resolving stress in your marriage? Yeah, that's because there's always things going wrong in the house, whether it's a plumbing leak or electrical issues or the washer goes out. There's things that are always happening. But the amazing thing about Advantage Home Warranty is that all we have to do is pick up the phone and make one call to file a claim or file a claim online, and Advantage Home Warranty takes care of the rest. They send out the technician. They make the repair. If they can't make the repair, they reimburse us for a portion of the cost of replacement. It's really an amazing plan. I carry the Elite plan on my personal home, and it's just taken off a lot of stress to know that Advantage Home Warranty is there when anything goes wrong. So check out Advantage Home Warranty at AdvantageHW.com. That's AdvantageHW.com. I think you should have an Advantage Home Warranty. With that said, obviously there's a lot of frustrations from the industry about Zillow. And then I look at like Homes.com, Realtor.com, Redfin. I mean, these are all partners. Trulia is actually owned by Zillow. So if you ever want to get a home value and you want to see what it's saying online, Zillow and Trulia usually say the same thing because they're the same company and same algorithms. But, there's competition between all these portals. They are all out there vying for market share to get people to their websites. Now, when it comes to Realtor.com, as an example, there's plenty of reasons not to like Realtor.com. I mean, do you know that as a realtor, as a member of the National Association of Realtors, years ago, a realtor sold their trademark off to a private company, or actually a public company, I should say, but they sold it off to a company to use our brand and then go to the public to earn the trust that we have when they're doing the same thing that Zillow is, and they're selling consumer data, right? So they're all in competition. They are all vying for the same eyes on their website to search for real estate. And so I can't really fault any of them there. We live in a capitalist society, and competition is okay. I'm fine with that. Now, let's get to this letter here that Homes.com sent out. And here's what they said. They said, last week, Zillow began using the market power it has been accumulating to take greater control of your listings. Betting homeowners will choose exposure on Zillow over loyalty to you, their trusted agent. Zillow made good on threats Friday by banning an agent's listing who hadn't submitted to Zillow within 24 hours of marketing it. Zillow banned the listing, even though the property listed in the MLS system, it names the MLS system, and it complies with all MLS and NAR rules. Now, when buyers search for the property on Zillow, they see it falsely labeled as off-market. Zillow has long misled buyers about who the real listing agent is, and now they mislead buyers about which homes are actually for sale. So far, as I read this from Homes.com, I'm like, yeah, all of that is very true. I don't really agree with Zillow's policy. I don't think it's right. If a home is on the market, it's on the market, and it should be available across all platforms. And for whatever reason, they're choosing not to do it. The interesting thing is that Realtor.com and Redfin, who Zillow, in this letter, it later states that Zillow has called them close partners. They followed suit right away with what Zillow's policy was going to be. Homes.com has obviously not chosen to follow suit on this. So, this is the other interesting thing that they point out in this letter, is that Zillow has used the IDX feeds and your listings to build up their audience, and now they're cutting out agents, brokers, and the MLS. This is pretty much because Zillow has started campaigns directly to the consumers through emails that they have collected off of our listing data, and they are encouraging sellers to sell homes without using an agent and having access to the largest platform in the industry, which is Zillow. Interestingly, this is what I don't get, and I don't have the answer to this. But when I go into the two MLS systems that I'm a member of, which is the Dayton MLS system and the Cincinnati MLS system, Zillow is a brokerage within those MLS systems, but yet they are marketing properties of for sale by owner homes as a brokerage website. Now, I know there's probably some argument there where they say, well, Zillow.com is different than Zillow, the brokerage. Well, whatever the case is, the consumer does not see it differently. And I feel that that is wrong. If they are going to market a for sale by owner property, they shouldn't be allowed to be a brokerage in the state as well. Just my humble opinion. Letter goes on, perhaps the most brazen display of Zillow's hypocrisy is the actual language of their new ban. While Zillow preaches that they are protecting the industry by requiring submission of listings to the MLS within 24 hours of public marketing, in fact, their new rule does not apply to listings directly submitted to Zillow. In other words, the for sale by owner listings. And Zillow alone. You read that correctly. They will gladly do the very thing that they are preaching against. Does sound like blatant hypocrisy to me. So, when I look at Homes.com, this is not an advertisement for Homes.com. I will tell you this. I used to be a member of HomeSnap. I had HomeSnap for many years. I loved HomeSnap. When Homes.com bought HomeSnap, I was incredibly disappointed. But I have been impressed with some things that HomeSnap has delivered, Homes.com has delivered, and HomeSnap for that matter, versus what I've ever gotten with Zillow. With Zillow, everything is a sales pitch, right? So every time I've ever gotten a call from a Zillow rep, it's been to sell me territories, which so many people have bought into. Just so that Zillow could then pull the rug out, change the program, take the program away in certain markets, and really done a lot of pretty rotten things to the consumer. Whereas HomeSnap said they're never going to sell us leads, right? Now, they do have a thing where you can boost listings, you can pay to generate more leads off of your listings. To tell you the truth, I've spoken to the reps about it, and as a high-producing agent, it's incredibly expensive. And I even looked at them and said, look, if I go and buy Zillow leads, I know I'm going to get leads off of it. And they're decent leads, okay? You still have to follow up. They're still online leads. Nothing is guaranteed, but they are decent leads. The Homes.com, I was like, there's no way I'm buying into this. There is no proof source to know that if I spend $3,800 a month, I'm actually going to get business off of it. Okay, so let's be real there. But when it comes to Homes.com, they've always claimed that they're a more agent-centric company. Now, I've been a member for a while now of CoStar, which is their commercial listing service, which is the best commercial, national commercial listing service. If you're not familiar with CoStar, then you might be familiar with LoopNet, right? So LoopNet is the one that's very consumer friendly, but they have a whole back end called CoStar. So CoStar actually owns Homes.com. It's one of their brands. Apartments.com is one of their brands. But they've always claimed that they are more agent-centric, that they want to work with real estate agents, that they want to deliver leads to real estate agents, and that they're not going to use your listing data to sell it to someone else. And so I've always appreciated that. I've always felt like they have good data on their site as well. Recently, though, I still had an old HomeSnap account, and I wasn't using the Homes.com app and dashboard like I was using my old HomeSnap account. So it was hard to figure out where to go to cancel this account. And so I submitted an online inquiry and said, I want to cancel this account. Can you please help with this? I didn't hear anything back until the next month when my payment came due. I get a call. When I got the call, Anthony gives me a call. He says, hi, Mark. This is Anthony with Homes.com. Hey, I just wanted to let you know I am your Homes.com rep, and I wanted to check in with you because I got your inquiry about canceling your account. I went in to the back end of our system. I believe I have everything canceled out for you. I just want to make sure that you didn't get charged for it this month. And I was like, Well, that's kind of surprising. I never would have expected to call, maybe an automated email or something, but he called me, checked in to make sure, and then he said, well, I tell you what, let's let it ride for a couple, for a few weeks here. If you get charged, I'm going to give you my direct line. I'm going to send you a text message as soon as we get off the phone. Please reach out. Well, I never had to, because 2 weeks later, he called me, said, just checking in again. I want to make sure you didn't get charged anything. I'm showing here that you didn't, but I want to be sure. I was like, wow, that's just good service, right? Well, Anthony now calls me about every 3 or 4 weeks only to check in. He's like, hey, I'm just checking in with you. I just want to make sure everything's going okay and see if there's anything you need from homes.com, or if I can teach you anything about our app that would be helpful to you. I'm like, seriously? You're not going to start into the sales pitch? Not once in the several conversations that I've had with him over the past 3 or 4 months, not one time has he ever tried to sell me something. So first off, I preach this all the time. Like when you're following up with clients or past clients, or you are just talking to prospects in general or people in your sphere of influence, you don't have to be selling every time. And in fact, people get tired of sales pitches. I get so many calls on this darn phone of people trying to sell me stuff. And thank goodness, our cell phone companies now tell us when they think it's a scam or telemarketing or a nonprofit, that's calling, trying to get money out of you. Thank goodness they do that, because it eliminates so many pickups that are wasted. But what I will say that I love about, what homes.com is doing, and what you should be doing anyway, is just touching base with people. Hey, I just want to check in, see how you're doing. I hope everything's going well with you, right? So that said, I really love that homes.com is doing that. Again, they're not sponsoring this show. And quite frankly, whatever portal you like, great, use your portal. I really do encourage you, though, set your clients up through the MLS. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, all of these companies are out to make money. Okay, so Zillow, they're selling leads. Every time your client clicks on it, that lead goes to an agent, and it costs anywhere from $30 to $100, depending on what kind of plan that, agent is on with Zillow, right? So they're making their money. Realtor.com, they have their whole back end where they get the client on the phone, and then they live transfer them out, or they send that lead directly over via phone or text message and get the connection made, and then they're taking a referral fee, okay? Now, I'm a bigger fan of those kind of programs because I think it just makes more sense for agents to pay a referral fee at conversion, all right? But all of that to say, they're all out to make their money. Homes.com is trying to make money more on the listing side of things, and generate more listing leads and leads on your listings. I've received a few leads on my listings where people have gone onto my listing on homes.com and they reach out to me directly from there. So that's been a good thing. And they didn't sell it to me. I just received the lead. Now, it's not in the hundreds. It's like a handful over the past couple of years. But that said, I want to talk to you about how to beat Zillow, right? So even in this letter, it's talking about, the millions of marketing emails that are going out to homeowners saying, helping you sell for more. And then when homeowners click, Zillow encourages them to sell your home yourself. Okay. And yeah, we can get mad about that, but we've been in competition with Zillow and Realtor.com and all of these portals for years. We've been in competition with low-cost brokerages. We've been in competition with, brokers or real estate agents that will undercut commission to win, right? We've always competed against this stuff. So how do you beat Zillow at their own game? All right, here we go. Number 1, CSRB. CSRB. I've talked about it on the show. I did a whole series on it. Go back. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on the podcast. CSRB, consistent, systematic relationship building. You want to win. You want to beat Zillow. People are most likely to work with people that they know, like, and trust. So be the one that they know, like, and trust. In other words, be consistent and systematic in your relationship building. That means that you do need to use this instrument that we have. The most valuable piece of technology that we have is something that is in our hand most of the time, every single day. Text people, call people, stay in communication with your sphere of influence using your phone, okay? Very, very important. Send emails of value. Do client and community events to be in front of people. Use snail mail, right? And stay present on social media to build those relationships. Your sphere of influence, they need to see you from all angles, okay? And you are going to be present with them if you have a system where you are consistently, systematically relationship building. Oh, I forgot probably the most important one. That's client home value reports. You should be doing an annual client home value report for every homeowner that you know. Because when you're providing that kind of value, when you are showing them, how the market is moving, you are showing them what all of the portals are saying their home value is and giving them an estimate of where their home would come in today, it will lead to listing opportunities. It will lead to referrals, but you're building trust. You're getting face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball with the client or the customer, okay? And that is so incredibly important. If I go on Zillow, there is no real person that is there to help me. But if you are consistently and systematically in front of your sphere of influence, you are the real person and the real estate expert that has provided value to them. And let me tell you, when it's time for them to go get an agent, they're not going to think, I should go on Zillow and see if I can find an agent. No, they're going to be like, I need to call Mark, or I need to call Natalie, or I need to call Joe, and I need to talk to them about real estate. I want to go see a house. I want to start looking for homes. They are going to call you because you've been consistent and systematic in your relationship building. I don't care what Zillow does, right? I don't care what their policies are. I don't care what Realtor.com or Redfin's policies are, or even Homes.com for that matter. Because my business is not built on any one of those portals. My business is built because I am continually in front of my client base. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, educate your homeowners, educate your home buyers, educate your sphere of influence. Don't hit the button. And I think in today's world, people hate to know that their data is being sold. They absolutely hate when their data is being sold. So tell them, if you click the button on Zillow or Realtor.com, they're just selling your data. Don't let your data be sold. People absolutely hate that. Last thing I'm going to say, if you move into a new area, you absolutely have zero leads, zero contacts, fine. Maybe buy some Zillow leads, use the Realtor.com system, use some of those opportunities. But what I'm going to tell you is stop buying Zillow leads. Yes, you're going to get some leads here and there, but please just hear me on this. Go talk to your sphere of influence. Build a sphere of influence. The great thing is, if you don't have a big sphere of influence, you can go build one. It can grow. Get involved in your community. Start doing the things that are going to build relationships with people that you can add to your list, and then start consistently, systematically building the relationships with them. All right, so don't go make it your whole business to buy Zillow leads. People waste so much time and energy talking to people they don't know. Stop it. I just tell you, stop doing that. Build relationships with people that know, like, and trust you. And just continually be building that relationship, building that relationship, building that relationship. And if you do that and do it successfully, you will never starve for business. So, hopefully I did a good job going through this letter. I thought it was really interesting that this came in the mail, and really thought it would be an important thing to talk about. And, Zillow does some things really well. I'm just going to be honest, because I don't want this to be a just bash Zillow day, right? Recently, I helped a client get their condo listed, and I listed on Zillow. I paid the fee to upgrade the listing on Zillow. it was pretty nice. It's a great system. They do the background check. They do all of it. It was a great system. And so as an agent, well worth using their systems. I love Dotloop. I love Showing Time. I even think that Zillow is one of the cleaner portals to do searching on, right? So it's not just a bash Zillow day. I think the biggest point that I want to make in all of this is you need to go out, build relationships, because relationships will trump whatever Zillow does, whatever Realtor.com does, whatever Homes, Trulia, Redfin does. At the end of the day, your relationships matter and will lead to your ultimate success. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next week.